Hi guys, this is Anna from Anna and Ivy, and today I will show you how to use our animated font inside of Photoshop. You can use it inside of Photoshop 2018 or newer, inside of Premiere Pro, After Effects, Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve, which is actually for free. So yeah, I will show you how to use it inside of Photoshop. It's the same way you can use all or mostly all of our animated elements. So if you already know this, you don't need to watch this tutorial. But for those who are new to this kind of products, please check out this whole tutorial. So the first thing you will see when you download the collection is you will have two folders which contains on the one hand the static files of the font. So you will get bold, regular and stencil. Stencil is limited at the moment to upper and lower case and the numbers because you mostly don't use stencil style fonts for whole text, but for logo design or stuff like this, so you don't need the whole range. Just make sure you know how to work with open type fonts, because there are also alternates inside of this, and some programs like Canva doesn't support alternates, so you won't have access to these special letters, so to speak, inside of Canva, for example. But I will add an information inside of the description of this collection so you can check it out over there. So the next thing we can look at is the animated font part. So at the moment it only contains the bold version, the lowercase, uppercase and numbers, but I will update this as the time goes by. And I will let you know when I update something. So this is the current version 1.0, so to speak. So yeah, let's start with it. So let's have a look at the uppercase, for example the R, which is one of my favorite. What you will see at the beginning is nothing, because the font builds up as the animation continues. So at the beginning it's like transparent, or maybe your system show it as black, so it really depends on what kind of system you are using. So here we go. This is the animation. It's building up, and at the end it's building down, but you can also remove this back building, so to speak, and I will show you later how to make this. So this is the animation. So we will start with the document I just set up. It's 90/20 and 1080 of size. It's the perfect size for Instagram stories, and I will simply drag and drop an image I got from Unsplash into my document. So I will scale it up. Here we go, and simply choose two letters for a logo I want to create. So let's go back to the R, because I like it so much, and the I or J, do you call it J? I'm not sure. So at the beginning you won't see anything because it's a build-up animation. The next thing we are going to do is to go to Window, Timeline, and our timeline appears. So now you can click on Create Video Timeline. Please don't click on Create Frame Animation, because this is something different. Click on Create Video Timeline, and then you already see our animation of the font is 8 seconds long, and the image is shorter in our timeline. So what we do at the very beginning for this animation, we will simply drag the image to the end of our timeline at the 8 seconds, so it's equally in length. So here we go. And when you now press play, you will see a bit stuttering because, okay, this is a bit slow inside of Photoshop, but you will see our letters build up. So Next is to adjust the size. I will adjust the R at first, so I press Command T or Edit Free Transform, and then simply scale it down. So the next thing is I will select the eye, also Command T, and scale it down too to make it more equal. I will overlay it to the eye to see, yeah, there we go. So at this point it looks like we adjusted the R, but here we go. This is our very basic first step. So in case your logo contains an R and an I, this would be the final logo animation. So here we go. And just to wrap this whole thing up, in case you don't want to change anything, you export this as an animation when you go to File, Export, Render Video. Then make sure your size is set to document size. Choose the folder of the where you want to save it. Name it, for example, like RJ, and simply click on Render. So this will take a bit because Photoshop is not an animation program, but 8 seconds should be fine for export. So now I want to show you how to make small adjustment in this whole thing. So the first thing I want to show you is how to adjust the time each letter appears. So at the moment the R and the I appears at the same time, and at the end it goes away at the same time too. So now I want to make the I appear a tiny bit later than the R. So what I'm going to do is I will cut the I. To cut it, I will select the I, the layer, and then simply check where it's already built up completely and click on the small scissor here. Now it's cut into 2 pieces, and I will move with this a bit to the right. So this is the part that's already built up completely. And this is my built up part, and now I have to make sure this one touches the beginning of the other one. Here we go. So now when we look at this whole thing, we see the eye appears later. And now when you want to make the R remove earlier than the I, you make the same thing as you did with the I. Select the R layer and then simply click on the scissor. Move this to the left. And then the cutted part also until it touches our beginning layer. So I hope this makes sense. Here we go, and now our R appears at first, then our I, then the R removes itself, and the I follows up. So this is the first version. Here we go. So if you want the letters to not disappear, you can make it in 2 versions, or you have 2 options how to do this. So the first and very easy option is to choose a second on the timeline where it not does disappear yet, and then simply make your timeline shorter. Or what you can do is, if you want a longer animation, let's say a 10-second animation, but the letters don't have to disappear. You simply cut them, select them here. I extended my timeline to 10 seconds and choose also about, what is it, at second 6, where the letters are not starting to disappear, and then cut them at this point. Then I go just a tiny bit to the right, select my copy of the cutted part, and then click on rasterize layer. The same with the eye, rasterize layer. This means it's only an image, so the animation is gone at this point. You won't see any movement, and I will drag it until the timeline is at the end, and here we go, nothing happens. So now I want to show you how to make some adjustments to this whole animation thing. Let's say we want to have the stencil version, which is at the moment not available as an animation, but you can create it by yourself. So I will make this a bit bigger, and then click on the R. Make a mask by clicking on the small icon over here, and then select your eraser tool. Make sure your eraser is set to black over here, and make sure you have a hard brush selected and a not as big brush. Here we go. So now we will paint on our mask with the black eraser. Here we go. And simply remove parts we don't want to show. So now, without holding out on your keyboard, you can check your mask, which is kind of messy, but it's enough for our purpose. And with holding out, you go back to the image view. So when we check our animation, you'll see it's the stencil version we just made on our own. Here we go. So of course you can adjust different stuff, like you can remove parts over here, like for example, if you want to disappear the eye behind her ear, make the same thing. Click on the mask while having the eye layer selected, and then simply paint with the eraser on the mask. Here we go. If you just made a small mistake like I did, simply change to your brush. Make sure you have a hard brush selected, and with painting white, with painting with white on your mask, you make the letter appear again. So here we go. Now it looks like it's behind her ear for no reason, but the animation still works fine with this thing set up. Oh, let's remove this eye thing because this is kind of disturbing. So the next thing I want to show you is we can make some text above or around this whole logo design. So I will select the R and the I, sorry, and then again Command T or Edit, Free Transform, and then I will make this whole thing smaller. Here we go. And now I see my mask is not as clean as I wanted it to be. So I will adjust it a tiny bit. Here we go. So now I want to create a text around this whole logo, which is also moving. And what we are going to do is we will make an ellipse with the ellipse tool. Holding shift, your ellipse is equal scaled. And here we go. So now we have an ellipse. And now we will select the type tool, and when you hover over this ellipse while it's still selected in your layer panel, you can see your type icon changes a bit. This means you can write on your path around the logo design. Here we go. I will select another font, and now I will make this whole thing a bit smaller. So now the next step is to remove the ellipse because we don't need it anymore, and to check our timeline. So at the moment the text is created where I left my timeline at my last point, so I want it to be from here to here, and here we go. This is the look. I will leave the text inside of this preview because it doesn't matter what's inside of the text for this purpose. So what I want to do is first I want to animate this text to move around this logo. And what I also want to do, I want it to appear. So the first thing we are going to do is we want to make it move. So what you have to do is you have to click on the small arrow here and make a keyframe at the point of transform. And then we will go to the end of our animation. And now we will go back to our transform mode, Command T or Edit Free Transform, and we will simply rotate this whole thing like this, for example. And here we go. So when we move with our timeline, we can see it's rotating around our logo design. So if I want to make it appear at the beginning and disappear at the end, I have to adjust the opacity. So while still having our text selected, we will click on opacity, make a keyframe over here and set the opacity to 0. Now we will move to the right, wherever you want it to start being fully visible, and we will change the opacity to 100, and the keyframe appears automatically. So same thing at the end, opacity keyframe because we are still at 100, and at the end of our animation opacity 0, it disappears. So when we make a preview over here, you can see the text appears and later disappears. So you can play around with the time settings and so on. It's up to you how you adjust this whole thing. The next thing I want to show you is how to change the color of the logo design or of the single letters. I will remove the text for now because I don't need it for this purpose. And it's super easy to change the color of the letters. You simply select one letter, then go to your drop-down panel over here in the layers panel and select color overlay. Choose your color, and that's it. So now it has another color. So what you can do is you can use, for example, clipping mask and whatever you want. It's like a normal layer inside of Photoshop, but it has a timeline adjusted to it, so it doesn't do anything different than a normal layer, so to speak. This means you can also add like effects on top of this. So I will remove this color overlay for now, and I will show you how to put some effects on top of this logo design. For example, we can go to filter, we could liquefy it, for example, to achieve this kind of trending look at the moment. So here we go. Let's say this is kind of nice. It looks a bit weird, but you get what I mean. So you can put every kind of effect on top of these layers while still having the animation active. So it really is a freedom of creativity if you want to make things like this. I will remove this liquefy filter for now, and I will show you now how to make some cool color effects. And I will set it to 6 seconds now, and I want to have some color changes inside of this whole logo design. So I will copy the R, because we will only make it with the R for this tutorial purpose. To make it easier, we will copy it 2 times, and now we will move the first copy a bit to the right and the second copy a bit further to the right. So now we have like 3 times the R, but you can't see it because they are all white. So my first R is the one I will color in beige. I will go to color overlay, and then I will choose a color from the image, like this one. Then I go further to the right and select my first copy, go to color overlay, make it a bit lighter, and the last copy is still white. So now when I press play, my R is at the beginning dark beige, lighter beige, and then white. So here we go. So you can experiment with this in so many different kinds. You can change the opacity, for example, of this tone. Some kind of transparency in here. Whatever you like. So it's really up to you how you adjust this whole thing again here. So the next thing I want to show you is how to export the animation of the logo only to and GIF to make it usable inside of Canva, for example. Or if you need a GIF in general, I will show you how to make it. So I will remove my background image because I don't need it, and the background layer, here we go. And I will adjust, or let me just make a solid in black so I can see a bit better what I'm doing here. I will remove this later because it's only for my better view. Oops. So select both letters, Command T for free transform, and make it a bit bigger. Here we go. And now I can remove this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I will export this animation as a GIF. So just to make it a bit quicker, I will crop this to 5 seconds to show it a bit quicker to you, because otherwise this will take longer. So the next thing we are going to do is we will crop this whole thing, because we don't need this empty space over here. So make sure you have a time selected in your timeline where everything's visible. Then go to Image, Trim, Transparent Pixels. This is the setup. Okay. And now we only have the size of our logo design. So the next thing you are going to do is you go to File, Export, Save for Web. And mostly it's JPEG setup, so we will go to GIF or GIF. This takes a while. So as you can see, the colors are 64, the color range. Since our logo is white, we can change it to like 4 or 2. It doesn't really matter. To make the file a bit smaller, and then simply click on Save, and Photoshop exports it. So now I will show you how you or your clients can use the exported GIF animation inside of Canva, which is quite cool. I'm in my Canva overview here, and the first thing I'm going to do is simply drag and drop my image into my Canva document, because the animation is white, so it's better for the visibility. So now I have my logo, my GIF file, which I just exported, and I will also drag it into my uploads. Here we go. This will take a bit. As you can see, this is the upload time. I will let it load. So now it's uploaded. Add it into my story. Here we go. And adjust it a bit. So you can now leave it like this or do whatever you want to do with it. And now I will go to Download, MP4 video, Download. This will also take a bit. Here we go. So this is our final export of the Canva video clip. And as you can see, since our GIF file is quite short, it disappears at 5 seconds. I made it like 5 to 6 seconds, I guess. I would recommend to try out what kind of length works best for you. I normally use 50 seconds for Instagram story, because one Instagram story is 50 seconds long, but you can of course use the 9 seconds from Canva settings. So just let me check this. If you can, oh, you can adjust it inside of Canva. So I would say if you want a story or something longer and so on, you can adjust it over here. So it's really up to you. So I hope I could show you the possibilities you have with this collection, and if you have any questions left, please feel free to ask, so I can make additional tutorials for this, and I see you next time. Bye!